The sky had long been a ledger time, each star a silent witness to the fragile compacts of civilizations. On this twilight, the horizon bled molten gold into violet, and yet the air hummed with a different rhythm, a resonance that no human ear had catalogued. In the ancient city of Salvara, carved from obsidian and limestone, the spires stretched like the fingers of a slumbering god, tracing arcs in the heavens as if to plead with celestial forces that had long grown indifferent. The streets were empty, not for want of people, but because all who mattered had retreated into the ceremonial chambers, where history and fate were stitched together by whispered incantations and the trembling of torchlight. Above, the Truce banners, woven from threads of silver and memory, fluttered in a wind that carried the scent of ionized metal and ozone. The Truce, the 3-millennial-old covenant that had kept humanity and the alien emissaries at a wary peace, was more than parchment and signature. It was a living geometry, etched in the pulse of countless generations, in the rhythm of trade and shared catastrophe, in the ritual exchange of knowledge and relics. And tonight, every stone, every banner, every carved gargoyle seemed to sense the fracture that was coming, a subtle vibration beneath the feet, a quiet warning that had been ignored for centuries. In the central plaza, an obelisk of black glass rose, etched with runes that no human tongue had spoken aloud in 1,000 years. At its base, the Council of Ancients assembled, figures cloaked in muted gold and deep indigo, their faces obscured beneath ceremonial hoods. Each bore the insignia of office, rings of iron and crystal, staffs topped with pulsating quartz, pendants that contained fragments of meteorite. The air here was thick, not with dust, but with expectation, as though the cosmos itself had leaned closer to eavesdrop. They murmured prayers that were part liturgy, part calculation, invoking the hidden mathematics of diplomacy, trying to summon certainty from the void. And then came the first tremor of sound. Not an explosion, not a shout, but a resonance that hummed in the marrow of every bone. It rolled across the plains, a low vibration that bent the very air. The humans, masters of hubris, felt it first as curiosity, then unease, and finally as disbelief. The sound was a herald, a signal carved in frequencies beyond human design. It carried meaning, a syllable of war in a language older than memory. Across the vacuum of space, where the alien fleets had long waited in silence, the first emissaries appeared, not as ships, but as luminous glyphs drifting in the ether, each constellation bending and twisting in impossible geometry. They shimmered like fractal fire, defying human comprehension, and yet their intent was unmistakable. The truce was broken. In Salvara, the youngest members of the council raised their hands instinctively, feeling the old fear that coursed in their veins like a forbidden river. They had been taught that laughter was a balm, that disbelief could ward off despair. Yet when the initial message came, etched in light upon the obsidian obelisk, a declaration of war, the human response was paradoxical. Not screams, not panic, but laughter, the kind that bubbled from deep within, awkward and brittle, as the absurdity of the universe had finally revealed itself in a cosmic jest. They laughed because their history was a tapestry of defiance, of survival against impossible odds, and because the enormity of the alien threat seemed for now a story too immense to grasp fully. The obelisk flared, tracing the message in waves of prismatic fire. Each rune glowed and pulsed with a cadence, spelling names, dates, and prophecies intertwined with threats and promises. The alien missives were not just announcements. They were rituals in themselves, designed to manipulate perception, to bend will, to forecast death as if it were a pattern in the stars. And the humans, standing in the shadow of their own architectural testament to endurance, responded with that quintessential human impulse, audacity. They did not quake. They did not bow. They laughed. And the sound rang hollow and defiant, ricocheting off the spires like thunder trapped in crystal. From the heights above, the wind carried the scent of burning ozone and salt, a warning of the void pressing against the atmosphere. The city itself seemed to breathe, the pavements expanding and contracting in the rhythm of memory. Statues of forgotten heroes, carved in black granite, glimmered under the twilight with eyes that seemed to move, following the pulse of alien light. The humans, in their ceremonial robes, touched the relics in acknowledgement, tracing fingers over the cold stone, drawing courage from the hands of those who had faced calamities no less incomprehensible. And somewhere deep within the council chambers, a faint resonance answered the alien message. Not in weapons, not in fleet mobilization, but in song. Low chants, ancient and unbroken, rose in harmonic defiance, summoning the ghosts of the past and embedding human resolve into the fibers of the moment. Far above the city, the alien fleet coalesced into shapes impossible to describe in conventional geometry. Tendrils of light bent around themselves, forming sigils that shimmered like molten mirrors. Their presence was ceremonial, deliberate, terrifying. And yet, the humans watched, and the act of watching transformed the fear into ritualized observation, a dance of defiance across the threshold of annihilation. The stars themselves seemed to lean closer, curious about which way the scales would tip, the disciplined order of an ancient interstellar empire or the chaotic audacity of a species that had learned, over millennia, that laughter could sometimes carry more weight than armor. The tension thickened, as if the very air had become a liquid medium vibrating with anticipation. Light flickered in the plaza as the obelisk's runes writhed, reflecting not only alien intent but human history, the 1,000-year cycles of war and peace etched into stone and memory. In the distance, the mountains, a chain older than any record kept, rumbled faintly, as though acknowledging the recurrence of conflict, the inevitability of hubris and the fragile audacity of humanity. In that moment, the protagonist, unspecified yet palpable, a presence born of courage and folly, stood at the edge of perception, sensing the weight of worlds pressing toward choice. Neither fully human nor fully myth, they existed at the nexus of observation and action, where every heartbeat could become a pivot in cosmic design. The ritual had begun. The banners, the obelisks, the chants, the laughter, they were all prelude, the first act in a drama that would unfold across planets, centuries, and lifetimes. And as the light of twin suns fractured into the obsidian spires, scattering in spectral rays across the plaza, it became unmistakably clear. The 3,000-year truce had ended. War had arrived not with the violence humans expected, but with the poetry of inevitability, a cosmic choreography that demanded to be witnessed. And in their defiant laughter, the humans did not merely mock death. They summoned the first pulse of their own story into the void, a story that would either endure or be rewritten in the geometry of stars. The morning after the announcement, Salvara was no longer just a city. It had become a stage upon which the mechanics of history were about to unfold, a labyrinth of obsidian alleys, reflective plazas, and towering spires that caught the light of two suns and fractured it into dizzying spectrums. The citizens moved in choreographed rhythms, not because of fear, but in acknowledgement of the ritualistic cadence that the aliens had imposed simply by existing. In every corner, the hum of machines and the whispered incantations of the council interlaced, forming a strange symphony of survival and defiance. In the upper chambers of the obsidian hall, where the council of ancients convened, tension had sharpened into ritualistic precision. Each member wore robes embroidered with threads harvested from meteorite silk, glimmering like frozen starlight. Their faces, partially obscured by ceremonial masks, betrayed a restraint they had cultivated over generations. The youngest members fidgeted with insignias of office, sensing that the laughter from the night prior had been less an act of defiance and more a thin veil over primal uncertainty. This was a test, though none could yet articulate it, whether the humans' audacity would bend reality in their favor, or whether it would fracture under scrutiny. The first trial of perception came as the alien emissaries descended, not in ships but as luminous constructs, each a living sigil, hovering in patterns that defied human geometry. They did not speak as humans understood speech. Their language was light and vibration, patterns of resonance that encoded intent and threat. The obelisk in the central plaza mirrored their signals, translating alien frequencies into shapes and colors that humans could interpret as a combination of warning and challenge. It was a ritualistic dance of cognition, each side measuring the other's capacity for understanding, endurance, and folly. Captain Alaric Thorne, the first human to step forward into the strange ballet of light, carried the weight of both curiosity and caution. His armor, ceremonial yet functional, bore the marks of generations of negotiation. Scars of failed truces, etchings of past victories, fragments of alien relics incorporated into steel. His gaze, trained in both strategy and lore, traced the movement of the emissaries, searching for patterns, for meaning. To the untrained eye, it was chaos. To him, a puzzle, a cosmic riddle. Each movement was a sigil, each flicker of light a word, each resonance a syllable in a language older than the oldest libraries. As the human delegates mirrored the alien motions, performing gestures that were equal parts homage and defiance, the city itself seemed to respond. Pavements shivered, as though acknowledging the ritual. Water in the fountain spiraled upward in temporary levitation, droplets suspended by forces unseen. Statues of ancestral warriors leaned imperceptibly, as though giving assent to the unfolding choreography. Even the banners of the 3,000-year truce reacted, threads of silver twisting in harmonic resonance with the alien light. Every object, every material, was caught in this subtle dialogue between species, a trial of perception and control. The first revelation came not through words, but through resonance. The alien constructs coalesced into a massive sigil, a fractal lattice of light that projected visions into human minds. Cities older than human memory, deserts that stretched across unknown planets, and the skeletal remains of civilizations that had attempted to defy these interstellar lawgivers were displayed in silent, unyielding patterns. The vision carried both information and admonition. The truce had not been a guarantee of survival, but a test of stewardship. And now, the covenant had been shattered, not because of human failure alone, but because cosmic necessity demanded reckoning. From the crowd, whispers rose. Historians translating symbolic patterns, engineers interpreting light as energy equations, shamans reading omens in the tremors of matter. Each interpretation was partial, incomplete, yet necessary. The humans were learning not just that war had been declared, but that war in this context was both material and existential. Every thought, every hesitation, could ripple across the lattice of planets and stars. This was not mere combat. It was a trial of cognition, audacity, and endurance. In the midst of the trial, the first act of defiance occurred. Thorn raised a relic, a crystalline staff inherited from a previous negotiator who had survived a similar interstellar confrontation centuries prior. The staff was not just ceremonial. It contained within its lattice a fragment of a meteorite that resonated with alien frequencies. As Thorn lifted it, the emissaries paused, their forms bending and fracturing in ways that hinted at recognition. Symbols that seemed static began to shift, patterns folding into themselves like origami in zero gravity. The humans had inserted novelty into the ritual, creating resonance that even the aliens had not predicted. Yet the victory was ephemeral. From the void beyond, a shadow moved, vast, incomprehensible, the curvature of an alien construct so large it blotted out stars. It was the first demonstration of power, a quiet yet undeniable declaration. While humans could improvise and adapt, the aliens possessed scale beyond reckoning. Light fractured against its surface, reflecting in patterns that suggested both curiosity and judgment. The city trembled, and the council murmured incantations designed to bind perception to courage. This was no ordinary battle. It was an interplay of intellect, ritual, and scale. Amid the rising tension, internal fractures began to show. Some human leaders whispered a capitulation, arguing that survival required humility and obedience. Others, emboldened by their hubris, pressed for escalation, ritualized displays of strength that mirrored the alien forms, yet carried uniquely human symbols: laughter, song, fire, and steel. The Council of Ancients became a crucible of ideology, their ceremonial debates echoing through the obsidian halls. Each argument a potential pivot point for the outcome of the conflict. Alliances shifted subtly, loyalties tested, and even the most stoic members felt a pull of fear against the gravitational force of pride. In the following days, trials multiplied. Scouts ventured beyond the city, observing alien formations that moved with both precision and grace, absorbing or repelling environmental phenomena with ease. Human scholars attempted to decode these movements, their calculations intersecting mathematics, ritual logic, and metaphysical conjecture. Every observation revealed another layer of complexity, another secret embedded in the alien choreography. The humans realized that understanding was not linear. It was fractal, recursive, each insight generating further questions and requiring greater ingenuity to interpret. Amid these trials, personal dynamics became crucibles of their own. Thorne and his second-in-command, Lieutenant Mira Saven, exemplified the tension between action and restraint. Where Thorne sought patterns in the alien signals, Mira trusted intuition, drawing upon human memory, myth, and emotion to interpret resonance. Their disagreements were subtle yet profound, microcosms of the larger conflict, where calculation and instinct were both necessary and insufficient. Their debates, conducted in whispers beside the flickering light of the obelisk, became lessons for the observers, demonstrating that victory depended as much on internal alignment as external action. The apex of the trial emerged not in combat, but in revelation. An alien construct ascended into the city, larger than any building. Its form a lattice of reflective light, that twisted perception. Humans gazed upon it and understood, simultaneously, awe and terror. The truce had been more than a pact. It had been a test of narrative itself. Civilization was a story, and the aliens were both editors and critics, assessing which arcs deserved continuation. The construct projected not destruction but understanding, feeding humans visions of choice, consequence, and the fragile artistry of survival. The stakes were not only life and death, they were the continuation of human meaning. By the time the sun dimmed behind twin horizons, the city was both exhausted and electrified. Humans had survived the first trials, had inserted defiance into the patterns, and had begun to perceive the alien logic. Yet there remained the unspoken truth. Mastery was impossible without risk, and understanding without humility could fracture perception entirely. The aliens, in their inscrutable majesty, had made one thing abundantly clear. War was not merely physical, but cosmic, cerebral, and symbolic. And humans, in their laughter, ingenuity, and stubborn audacity, had begun to write their own counterpoint within the ritual. Thus, Salvar became a crucible, a nexus of understanding and defiance. Each day, each action, each ritualized gesture was both lesson and trial. The city itself became a participant, spires bending subtly, fountains spiraling in impossible arcs, banners vibrating with silent resonance. Humans and aliens, bound by the geometry of observation and the cadence of challenge, danced a ritual of escalation and revelation. And at the center, Captain Thorne and Lieutenant Saven, embodiment of courage, curiosity, and audacious defiance, prepared for the next trial, the one that would test not only their bodies, but the very narrative of human existence in the cosmos. The dust of battle had not settled, nor had the hum of alien resonance fully faded. Salvara, though scarred, remained upright, a city transformed by tension and triumph, by the rituals of war and the audacity of its people. The twin suns, now low in the sky, cast long, molten shadows across the obsidian spires. Light fractured against the ancient stone like the memory of 1,000 generations, illuminating banners still trembling with silver threads, imbued with the echoes of cosmic judgment. The humans, exhausted yet vigilant, moved slowly through the plaza, tracing patterns of survival etched into every surface. Each step was ritual, each glance an acknowledgement that the world, no, the universe itself, had shifted. Captain Alaric Thorne walked among the citizens, not as a commander, but as a witness. His ceremonial armor, once gleaming with purpose, now bore scratches dense and the faint smolder of alien energy that had licked its edges. Yet he did not see damage. He saw history inscribed in metal and flesh, a testament to endurance and choice. The crystalline staff, which had guided humanity through the trials, pulsed faintly in his hands, still resonating with frequencies that the alien construct had sent. It was a relic, a key, a symbol, and in its glow lay proof that audacity, reason, and ritual could coexist, if only for those willing to perceive beyond fear. Lieutenant Mira Saven moved beside him, carrying the quiet weight of insight. Her role had been not to act but to interpret, to feel the rhythms of the alien geometry and translate into human understanding. Where Thorne had sought patterns and logic, Mira had sought narrative, emotion, and memory. Now, in the aftermath, the duality of their methods seemed reconciled. Comprehension and courage had intertwined to carve a path through uncertainty. In their steps, the city itself seemed to breathe again, as if acknowledging that balance had been restored, at least for the moment, between human spirit and cosmic law. The Council of Ancients convened for one final ritual before the truce, or what remained of it, was formally concluded. They gathered around the obelisk, their motions deliberate and weighted with the gravity of millennia. Each placed hands upon the stone, tracing runes that glimmered with ancestral energy. This was more than ceremony. It was a recalibration of human perception, a reaffirmation of cultural identity in the presence of forces that could easily dissolve it. And as their voices rose in harmonic cadence, the plaza responded. Fountains swirled in inverse spirals, banners shimmered with refracted starlight, and statues leaned ever so slightly toward the center, as if bowing to the resilience of their makers. In the distance, the alien constructs hovered silently, no longer threatening, no longer demanding, but observing. Their forms, once jagged and incomprehensible, now shimmer with a pattern that suggested acknowledgement. The trial had ended not with destruction, but with recognition. Humanity had survived the challenge not through domination nor subservience, but by audacious engagement, by laughter and ritual woven into the threads of cosmic geometry. And in that acknowledgement, the aliens conveyed a subtle promise. The future remained unwritten, contingent upon respect, ingenuity, and courage. The city streets echoed with quiet celebration. Children ran between spires, chasing the shadows of alien light, still refracted through crystal prisms embedded in the architecture. Artisans hung new banners, woven from threads of silver and memory, to commemorate the audacity that had preserved their culture. Scholars and shamans moved together in careful discussion, interpreting the new harmonics of understanding, codifying lessons learned into symbols, stories, and rites. Even the simplest acts, a hand clasped, a word spoken, a candle lit in honor of the fallen, became part of the ritual continuum, binding the people to one another and to universe in subtle, sacred geometry. And yet, even in triumph, there was reflection. Thorn and Mira ascended the highest spire, overlooking the city and the alien lights beyond the horizon. The silence between them was profound, unspoken but full of resonance. Here at the pinnacle, they could feel the weight of choices made and unmade, the pulse of civilizations intertwined, the subtle hum of potential futures stretching outward into the void. Mira placed a hand on the crystalline staff, feeling the lingering frequencies ripple through her bones. "We have survived," she whispered, voice barely carrying over the wind. But survival is not the end. It is a beginning. Below, the citizens of Salvara had begun a new ritual. Fire was lit in the central plaza, not as a weapon, but as a symbol of illumination, of knowledge gained through trial and daring. Flames danced against obsidian and quartz, casting patterns that mirrored alien geometry, yet bore uniquely human asymmetry. Each individual, from council elder to child, contributed in some way, a whispered word, a carved mark, a carefully placed offering. The ritual was a bridge between past and future, between human hubris and cosmic respect, between the finite and the infinite. In the quiet hours that followed, the narrative of the truce and its dramatic conclusion was inscribed not in books or broadcasts, but in memory, myth, and song. Poets wandered the streets, capturing the resonance of the alien constructs, translating patterns of light and frequency into words that could be spoken and remembered. Children learned the gestures, the movements, and the subtle dances that had protected their ancestors. Even the city itself became a living archive. Spires, statues, fountains, banners, and streets now held encoded histories of trials, a silent testimony to both peril and audacity. Thorn and Mira lingered at the spire, watching the last of the alien light fade into the void. The constructs had withdrawn, leaving behind a hum of potential rather than the roar of destruction. In that silence lay understanding. The universe had observed, judged, and permitted humanity to continue, not because it was deserved, but because it had been proven capable of comprehension, courage, and innovation. It was a victory measured not in territory or bodies, but in resonance, perception, and narrative alignment. Finally, as night fell, a single star, unremarkable yet persistent, emerged above the plaza. Its light glinted against banners, relics, and spires, casting a delicate, spectral pattern across the city. Citizens paused to observe, sensing the subtle poetry in its glow. It was a reminder that even amidst cosmic judgment and existential trials, there remained beauty, continuity, and hope. Every flicker of light became a story, every echo a song, every shadow a lesson in resilience. In that quiet, mythic stillness, Thorn placed a crystalline staff upon the obelisk, its pulse harmonizing with the city, the people, and the memory of what had been survived. Mira knelt beside him, tracing a rune of gratitude and continuity, a mark that would endure as a symbol of understanding and audacity. The rituals of conflict had ended, and the rituals of remembrance and reflection had begun. The final scene of the city was one of soft grandeur. Obsidian spires reflected twin suns now replaced by the quiet shimmer of starlight. The fountain spiraled gently, carrying ripples that traced forgotten sigils. Banners fluttered in the wind like silver wings, and the citizens, both ordinary and heroic, moved as part of a living tableau. Human resilience inscribed into the geometry of the cosmos itself. And in the center of it all, a single candle burned upon the obelisk, its flame neither large nor imposing, but precise, unwavering. It was the last ritual, the softest echo of human audacity, the quiet testament that though the truce had ended, humanity had not only survived, it had inscribed itself upon the infinite, in light, in story, and in laughter.